Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 490, titled, Heading into a Really Fancy Ambush. Actual play begins immediately.
Hello everyone, this is Scott, your DM for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight, starting on my right, is...
I'm Tom. I'm playing Alder Arusha, a human cleric of Amira, and a skill-seeking rogue.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I'm playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and an eldritch knight of the Fist of Amira.
I am Jim playing Grodor, a hobgoblin warlock and one of the city-hopping Fists of Amira, searching for truth, knowledge, and the fastest way to the next city.
I'm John, playing Melody, a female human cleric, the third of the exemplar family Harmony. I'm an ex-ambassador turned political operative in the Fist of Amira.
I'm Thomas. I'll be playing Gabrielle DeAngelis. She's a female human paladin and a Holy Fist of Amira who's unknowingly taken the first steps towards her destined oath of conduct.
All right, where we left off last time we played was the Fist of Amira had made their way into Iron Sword, a large citadel-based city in the Iron Sword Pass, and worked their way through the crowded streets. It was a day of festival where the vaunted giant eagles and their riders would be having a jousting tournament later in the evening. So you made your way through the festive city streets to the eastern side of the town, East End as it is called, and there you made your way into the eastern part of the citadel and took up residence for the night there, thinking that would be safer and more cost-effective than staying in an inn. The group split up at that point into three separate parties of Alder and Grodor went to investigate the library and to do a little bit of digging there. Another group that comprised of Melody and Marduk went to a smith that Melody knew, a family friend, to talk about Marduk's weapon and the runes on it, the Spear of Amira, as we're calling it now, to see if they can glean any additional information from that, which they did. Lastly, Gabrielle decided to stay and watch the festivities of the eagle jousting and just got basically a front row seat to a spectacular duel that ended in a 4-3 victory for the East Enders, with also a revealing of Gabrielle's truest nature when no one was around to see, as she unfolded some wings and let loose to the sky for the first time since she had gained them. From there, we'll start with tonight saying that everyone was making their way back to the barracks for the evening. Melody and Marduk, you're winding your way through packed city streets with exuberant celebration of the victory of the East Enders in the jousting match. There's much merriment and celebration, and you're jostled about. It's impossible not to be. There's a lot of drunkenness and excited back clasping and high-fiving and laughter and just exuberant behavior as you get jostled on your way back to the barracks to sleep for the night. For Grodor and Alder, it's much more of a calm, quiet walk as you work your way from the library with one of the librarians guiding you back. And Gabrielle, you didn't say if you were going directly back to the barracks after the final jousting match. Is that what you're planning on doing, or did you have something else in mind in the late night's celebration?
Nothing else planned.
Okay. So you have a very short walk, 5 minutes or so, from the excellent vantage point that you found for yourself on top of one of the other outbuildings. You work your way back to the barracks and await the arrival of the others, who arrive a short time thereafter. First arriving would be Alder and Grodor. A half hour later, as they work their way through very crowded streets, Melody and Marduk. At this point, it's nearly midnight. It's been an exhausting day. You started this day off on the road and ended it in the Citadel. Anyone doing anything before turning in for the night?
Nothing exciting for me.
Okay. I know, Melody, you're exhausted, right? You have a level of exhaustion, and you're probably having a hard time keeping your eyes open.
Yeah, it's right to bed for me.
Okay.
I do spend a little time seeing if Marduk has anything that he would like to share about research.
Right, because you were helping him with it, if I'm not mistaken, because you speak Celestial yourself, do you not?
I do.
Right.
And I also tell him it didn't seem that this library is quite as impressive. Grodor and I went there. If I were him, I wouldn't waste any time there, but I am curious if you found anything.
I share the information that the smith provided about the runes and the spear. I kind of express a little concern that there was a gleam of avarice in this person's eyes looking at it. While the spear is possibly a symbol of Amira's influence in return, I felt a little bit guarded that maybe this smith might be a little covetous. So I'm a little...
You think there's a danger he might try to kind of borrow it from you?
No.
Or is it more...
What Amira will be, and
That's true.
if its destiny is to be taken from me, well, that's fine, but it'll carry on without me.
True, but I don't know that if someone who believes in Amira might not believe in themselves being more powerful than you. But
it'll be an opportunity for me to educate and inspire them.
Yes, indeed. And I am kind of amazed that you still think that Amira has effects because, I don't know, I haven't seen things that she has directly influenced or even spoke, but I'm not going to argue with you. Your beliefs are you, and perhaps you are right and I am wrong in that she is slowly coming back and affecting things that she can. I hope so. That is my wish. But perhaps, do we have a separate room?
I'm going to say that you have a room that wasn't being used, and it had about 10 bunks in it, as they had some additional space in the Citadel for when they need to bolster their forces.
Right.
So, yes, you do have a room that is somewhat private.
So we can make sure that nobody can come in while we're sleeping. Move a bunk in front of the door, something like that. I doubt they have a lock.
What Marduk shared with you, Alder, that the weaponsmith, Dunabek, revealed to him was that the wood that the staff is made from was extremely rare, called mythwood. Myth being not mythical, but short for mithril, like the metal. It's a blend of mithril and wood. It's a very hard wood that resides or grows in the ember, so in another plane of existence called Mount Celestia. Mythwood is rare even there, but that's where it comes from. Mount Celestia would also be the home, or once the home, of Amira.
While Marduk was explaining what the smith said, I am not reaching out and grabbing, but I am staring at the staff and kind of shaking my head and stating, when you had me look at the runes, I thought it felt weird for wood, almost like metal, but it wasn't. It was wood. So that kind of makes sense. And I wonder if that'll actually help in any way if we want to research some of its abilities. Or do you know all the abilities of this weapon?
Not yet, outside of the light and its power to pierce through demon hide. I have not experienced or noticed any other power or wisdom that has not revealed itself to me yet.
I imagine it does have some powers that we are unaware of yet.
I can't recall, but you've held the weapon, correct?
I have.
Okay.
I have. When I was studying the runes, you let me hold it.
And I offer to you again. Do you wish to examine it some more or review it again?
I don't mind, but truthfully, I don't know that much about other dimensions and magical abilities. I mean, I am someone who truly wishes Amira was back here, and I also don't know if that weapon is becoming more and more comfortable with you. So I don't want to impede that in any way by holding it. If I could help, I would, but I don't think I could. I think, if anything, perhaps Gabrielle or Grodor. But alas, they're both already sleeping.
No worries. I have attuned to it, and I'm comfortable with it. And I can even demonstrate where I could give it to you and then summon it back to my hand in a moment. So,
Okay, all right, I just got to see that. I'll hold it.
So I hand it to you, I go, observe, and then I will...
I start running across the room trying to take it as far away as possible.
And it now appears in my hand. It cannot be taken from me.
I chuckle. That is kind of cool. I like that.
That is the trick from the Eldritch Knights, but still.
Certainly don't have those abilities.
I'm looking forward to actually being able to throw this spear in combat and then have it come back to me. I think that would
be useful, yeah.
Be visually impressive to any who oppose.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave early tomorrow, but we can bring it up with Grodor and Gabrielle.
Sure.
If you would like, you can sleep a little farther away from the door. I will sleep on the bunk that's blocking the door. If anybody tries to sneak in here, I'll definitely wake up.
Since we are in a room within a fortress, and we're fists of a mirror, right?
And we've shared that, yes.
Right, so I'm kind of pretty
safe. I agree.
Yeah,
it's unlikely. I don't disagree with that, but
he did have a look. Okay.
And I don't always trust those in power. Sometimes they think they have a better idea on the way something would work. So it's not their call. It's your weapon. It was specifically given to you, and I just want to make sure it stays with you. That's all.
All right. I'm good.
So we will then head to bed.
I'm just snoring.
The night passes without incident. You all are woken up maybe a little earlier than you'd like with the noise from the outer chamber, the soldiers getting up, getting ready for the day. There's a mess hall connected. There's a noise of plates and cups and stuff being clanked. So you don't get to sleep in for a long period of time, but you do get a long rest. So any hit points are recovered. You can recover half your hit dice, but guys haven't used that yet because we haven't had back-to-back fights as of yet. Grabbing breakfast here, or are you heading straight to the gate? How are you approaching it?
If I remember, we had some urgency to pick up the pace and get going, so I suggest we grab something and just some bread or trail mix and let's get going.
Yeah, I would agree, simply because the faster we can get out of the city, the less traffic we're going to have to deal with. If we go down to the hall and spend an hour eating, and then it's just going to be a busier city. So yes, absolutely.
We could say at the very crack of dawn, Gabrielle and Marduk awake and begin to put together simple marching breakfast, and then gather up the supplies as well. Then everyone else wakes from there.
That will certainly work. We'll say that you're out in the streets heading towards the east gate no later than 7 a.m. So it's pretty early. The sun has risen in the east, so it's kind of coming through at a slant on the pass that you're traveling through. On the way to the eastern gate, you are taken by a shifting of the ground. For a few seconds, the buildings sway a bit. The ground beneath you trembles. There's a couple cracks that open on the paved stones as you go working your way towards the outer ring and the gate. It's all over in 5 to 10 seconds. But it is very jarring to have literally the ground beneath you quake.
Are we able to sense or detect if it was an impact, or if is it something that's burrowing? Or is it like just an earthquake that's shaking there?
I would say you feel pretty comfortable by looking around the city as it's happening, and you see other buildings shaking. Even the Citadel itself shakes and moves a bit during those 10 seconds. I mean, this is a mountainous area, and you're fairly confident that it seemed like it was an earthquake.
Okay.
Or a tremor of some sort. Maybe it might be overblown a bit to call it a full-fledged earthquake, but it certainly was a sizable tremor.
Do we hear any bells or alarms, or is this like California where no one gets nervous about a couple shakes?
Do people in the city look like, oh, this happens all the time, or are they like worried?
Yeah, I think what you see some light level of concern among the populace. People grabbing onto the side of a building or kind of sitting down quickly to make themselves not be moving in the tremor as much. You hear a couple exclamations of various citizens, like, whoa, what? And so it's something that probably doesn't happen often, but they don't seem completely freaked out by what's occurring. So it must happen at least occasionally.
Right.
Rather than stopping and asking a citizen, we can just keep moving to the gate, and when we're about to leave, we can talk to the guards that are at the gate and ask them, was that unusual? That seemed pretty big. Is there something we should be worried about on this road in front of us type of questions?
Right. One of the guards that you just approach at random kind of looks at you and says, happens occasionally, maybe once every couple years, once or twice a year. Maybe keep an eye out for rock slides because you're going through the pass. But besides that, I think you're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
It seemed like a big one.
Appreciate the explanation.
What's the next city that we're traveling to? Because we have a map, and I don't have one open in front of me.
2 days away is a small town by the name of Travail that is right in your path.
I look at the guard, and I'm assuming there's another guard. There's got to be at least two of them. And then tell them, we're heading east to Travail. Is there anything either one of you want us to pass along? A message, a mail, information?
Oh, that.
I figured we'd help.
Yeah, he's kind of taken aback. And that's very kind of you, but I have no relatives in Travail, so I'm good. And he looks around, and everyone else shrugs their shoulders, so
okay.
Everyone seems to be fine.
Thanks for the information.
Mm-hmm. No worries.
Do other people saying the word travail cause my dragon to shapeshift?
No. It seems to know when it's being spoken directly to, as opposed to a random saying of the word. So when someone says travail, it doesn't immediately turn into the book in question. It just ignores it.
Okay. I ask Tome if they need anything to eat, if this transformation causes any sort of exhaustion.
It blinks twice. You had told it previously, blink once for yes and blink twice for no.
Okay. So not hungry and transforming doesn't cost anything. Then if you don't mind, I'd like to check out Travail.
It does so with no worries at all. Just transforms quickly.
Into an atlas.
Yes, into an atlas.
I'm going to take a peek if it's an ordinary atlas. The word travel brings up a series of orcish histories, so Travail bringing up an atlas makes me wonder if it has something specific on Travail.
It is a map of this part of the sphere. The atlas is very close in its descriptions, not descriptions, but its maps and its detail, right, of the map that I have provided for you in the game. It's definitely concentrated on Amira. Many of the pages go into closer detail as if you zoomed in, but it would give you a better picture than if you just zoom into the map I gave you. It would list some villages and it would list other things. It's a really, really nice atlas, really detailed. And it includes all the way north to the Lawgivers and the Fractured North. And it goes all the way south to the Sovereign Shores and the Militant Host, the Chromatic Compact. It has the names of forests in.
We had the name of a character coming from the Chromatic Compact to. That's why we're racing to get to Tarask and beyond.
You didn't have the name of a character. You had the name of the city that it left from. That the group had left from. Salanthrin. And that city is not actually marked on the map that I have provided for you. I mean, the city is, but the name is not on there. There's a series of 3 lakes. There is a city right on the northern side of the northern lake. And it's the one that's closest to the Hollow Lands. So they would be right on the edge of the roving wilds. And supposedly a task force had left from there, led by a dragonborn, and was supposedly heading towards the crypt. Riven, the leader of the Nil Corruptus, had told Marduk that he wanted you guys to push your horses to 30 miles a day from the 24 that you were averaging. And what that means metagaming-wise is that you now have a -5 to your perception checks because you're traveling at a faster pace and it's more exhausting and you're more focused on the endurance of it as opposed to looking around and making sure nothing's creeping up on you.
Is there anything specific about Travail in this atlas? Does it have zoomed-in maps of specific regions and maybe some of them are marked up?
The area of Travail on the map is done in some detail. It's not, but most of Amira is, to be perfectly honest. Mm-hmm. So apparently the word doesn't mean that that particular town has been highlighted in any particular way that you can tell. It just seems to be part of the detail of the country of Amira in general.
It may have been where it was purchased in the first place, but either way.
What do we know about where this book came from again?
Very little.
We found the book in a little tiny shack near...
This is not the book you're thinking of.
No, it's not?
My dragon ate that book, evil, and it turns into that book. That is the grimoire.
Okay, where did this book come from?
Travail. This book, I don't know. There's quite a few in here. There's one I don't even know the name of, so I can't call it out. I have Travel, and I show what appears to be an Orcish history, and Hope, and I show a small diary of sorts. I haven't gotten to read this one yet. I was too tired last night.
Ladies, perhaps you should ride in the cart and talk about this while we move along.
Sure.
Are my legs not fucking walking?
We are walking. I am
you keep slowing down, Gabrielle. We have to keep moving. Marduk is scowling at us.
He always looks like that.
So his face looks like...
Wait a minute, I think he's smiling.
It's hard
you want to
tell,
take a break to read one of these? I can set you up with it. I'm good covering the walk for now.
No, unless there's one of them is in Celestial or some junk, I don't think I can do any better at reading them than you can. Never was one for books.
Very well.
I would love to read through all the books.
You wanted to check out the grimoire, so why don't you take a break in the back with that? Evil. And I set it to grimoire status and hand it over.
Okay. The grimoire, completely intact, looking exactly like it was when you pulled it from the small cubby just outside of Topshire, appears and is available for your reading pleasure, Rodor.
Cool. Okay, Melody, is that like the equivalent of a where book?
I don't see any moon out here.
Well, I know that, but I mean, you're just changing it into multiple different books, right?
It's a paper changeling.
Alder, I think we should keep moving.
Look at Marduk.
Moving.
He's scowling at you, Alder.
I'm looking over at Marduk. Sorry, moving along.
All right.
And you do. You continue on throughout most of the morning. You notice that the narrow pass, the air is a bit chillier than what you're accustomed to at other places around Amira. You definitely sense the fact that your altitude has changed. You're probably several thousand feet above sea level. The air there is just a bit chillier. It's not snowing. It's not rigid. It's just cool. And the breezes are cool. The pass itself is incredibly long. It's miles upon miles of the pass, and it's pretty sheer. There are times when it kind of widens out a bit, and you get some ledges, you get some hills close by, some steep hills, but a little less pronounced. But then you round a corner, you keep trudging upward, the pass narrows again in to where it might be, 80, 100 feet across. So it can be very narrow at points and very sheer in its height, which for those of you who have passed through it, this is no big deal. You're used to it. But for others, it might be somewhat disconcerting in the sense that there's not a lot of room to maneuver if you were to get into a tight spot, or if suddenly rocks fell down from, say, in Bremer, you wouldn't have a lot of places to hide based on just the sheer closeness of the pass and the tightness of the experience.
Well, I'm not lying that we try to travel even quicker than what we talked about before, as this is a possibility of multiple earth shakes. What do they call it?
Tremors.
Yes, I know. I'm being stupid. Because
I was filling in the smarts.
But this is not a safe place, so even faster is probably not a bad idea.
This is the place we'd most likely have to abandon the wagon if we got stuck. So I agree.
And I'm curious to see if there's anybody coming the other way, which would indicate that the pass is open ahead of us.
Interestingly, you haven't had anyone cross paths with you from the east traveling to the west yet this morning. Travel through the pass is, I don't know if I'd call it arduous, but I would call it, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So it's not like a bunch of farmers are passing from one side of the pass to the other side all that often. It's usually professional caravans that pass from one side to the next. And also, you might see patrols, because to dangerous place, mountains breed monsters and creatures that are fell and wild and evil. So there needs to be guardsmen that are along the path. You started off in the morning with a couple of patrols that were heading out, but you've blown past them because you're moving at a quicker pace. And so they've fallen behind you several miles just in the early morning. As you head towards midday, your pace is increasing and is going well, but you haven't noticed anyone come across from the other direction yet, which I don't know if it's odd. It might be just a little bit unusual. So you quicken the pace because you definitely want to avoid any kind of rock slides or other things that could occur.
And I'm also assuming that we're heading downhill.
You're still heading up. Remember, it's about 2 days to get through the pass and completely, like one full day in the pass.
Okay.
And then the next day, you're kind of coming out of the pass into the foothills. It's going to be a situation where you'll probably sometime midway through the day or so get into a situation where you hit the zenith and you start coming down the other side of the path. But you're not there yet. Okay, so you take a quick break for lunch, or are we eating on the road?
On the road, please.
Okay, so pushing through. So you push through lunch with some cold trail rations and some warm ale or water. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon or so, you're coming up on a bend. I'd like everyone that's in the front, not in the back of the cart, but everyone who's walking outside or on the horses, guiding the horses, to make a perception check, please.
I honestly think Marduk is at least one of the two people that would be doing that.
Yeah, he normally handles the horses, if I'm not mistaken.
And I roll a 19.
All right. Is anyone else walking alongside the cart?
I was definitely walking alongside of Marduk and talking to him about the spear and just chatting about different things. And I rolled an 18.
Okay. So you both see it at the same time. What you see is what looks to you to be a soul guard who is running towards your cart. He comes around a bend where you first pick him up, and there's probably another 100 feet or so until you lose the line of sight around the bend. And he's now running that 100 feet towards you. His helm is off. His hair is blowing in the wind that's whistling down this pass. He doesn't have a weapon out, but he looks very disheveled and very, out of sorts.
All right, I'm going to jump off the wagon where I'm leading the horses and close the distance with him. I don't want him to get past me or make it to the caravan before I'm going to stop him and command him to cease his flight.
As is normal, I join him, but I hang slightly back. And I will let him take the lead as far as...
What do you say to the man? He looks to be middle-aged, long silvery hair. His eyes look a bit wild. And again, he's running towards you. He sees you, and he makes eye contact, and he's like trying to get closer, it seems like, and he's breathing huge gulps of air as he's running in above sea level, thinner air.
Am I able to use insight to determine, is he fleeing and is he in fear or in danger, or is he closing to strike or
Sure. Go ahead and make an insight check.
I rolled a straight up 19.
You've seen men in battle before or at war. He has fear in his eyes. He's frightened. And he is not reaching for a weapon. He looks like he's trying to gather up enough air to talk to you and shout something out as he's gaining and getting closer.
What time of day did you say this was?
This is about 2:00 in the afternoon.
As a more social creature, I just ask him, are you okay? Is there something that's dangerous? And I actually untie my sword and put the bandana on.
Marduk, can you say how you said you're going to tell him to halt and to stop, but can you kind of put those into words, how you plan to approach him? Because you spoke before Alder did, and I'm interested to see what the language was that you used.
I was going to say either hold or stand fast. What is the danger? What is your hurry?
Okay.
And I'm looking kind of past him, too, to see if he's being either chased by something or is there something pursuing him.
With your perception checks, you don't see anything beyond him that looks to be of danger. Both of you can go ahead and make a persuasion check. In both cases, I don't think yours was intimidation at all, Marduk. I think it was more of a persuasion. And I'm going to give you advantage in the check because you spoke in a military language. And Alder, I'm going to have you just make a normal check, please.
Mm-hmm.
Marduk rolled a 7. He's not very persuasive.
You had advantage on that roll, Marduk.
Okay, sorry. Let me just roll one more then. I'm not gonna... Oh, a natural 1.
Well,
luckily that doesn't count.
Right.
The wind is swirling in the pass, so you do need to get close to people to actually hear them. He actually seems to have heard Alder more so. I think it's just that low, calm voice you have, Marduk, that just didn't project well into the wind of this pass. He stops maybe 10 feet from you, puts both his hands on his knees, and is just gulping in air, and then looks up and says, "It's harpies. Harpies. My whole group. The whole squad. They were seduced. Harpies. Help." And he's just sucking in air right now because he seems to have been running for a while.
I turn around and shout to the wagon. Enemy, harpies, incoming. They can apparently control you? Grodor, know anything about this? I turn back around to face the guy.
I'm not sure how we're doing our knowledge of different threats in our area. Do I have the ability to do like a survival skill to determine if I'm familiar with harpies? Because I thought harpies are more of like a beast or a creature and less being like I don't recall them having seduction powers, but I just wasn't sure if I.
But that's you as a player. What is your character now?
But that's what I'm saying as a through our training at the academy, is that an arcana that I can like? What do I know about harpies, basically?
Right. I'm going to say since harpies are magical creatures, they're not typical. Like I would have you make a nature check if it was a wolf.
Okay.
But since it's a more monstrous creature, I'm going to go with Arcana on this one. And say anyone who would like to make an Arcana roll can, because you all had classes. It might not be your specialty, but you could have paid attention during that one class. It could have struck you as interesting. So go ahead and make an Arcana check.
Okay.
Wow.
Rodor, you were sleeping in class.
Yeah.
Marduk came up with a 12.
Okay. Rodor, you rolled a natural 1.
Oof.
Grodor rolled 1 plus 2, which is 3.
Oh, man, the cuss needs to have a specialty. Gabrielle was paying attention that day. I rolled a total of 20.
Wow,
Yes,
yeah.
She was.
Wicked thing. Tell me about it.
With your natural 19, you remember that harpies definitely were challenging combatants because they could fly a distance, rake you with their talons, and then fly further along. You remember that there were different types of harpies. Common harpy can sing a song. They're known for their melodious voices. The voices can actually control the actions of other people. And there are also like larger, more powerful harpies. You don't remember a lot about that,
Right.
but you're under the impression that their voice could be more powerful in its seduction to get you to do what they want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Between their fighting prowess and their voice, that's what you remember with your roll of 20.
They are a foul beast. They fly and attack using hit-and-run tactics. Anything we can do to knock them out of the air will be helpful. And they have a bewitching voice that can charm the minds of lesser or more susceptible peoples, which might actually include myself.
So you all take a couple turns to like step into a circle where you're taking the clasps off your weapons and prepping for potential combat and talking amongst each other. And after a few turns, he actually can talk again. And he's like, yeah, they started singing and I covered my ears and I just started running. And I saw everyone was just, they started like, it was, I don't even know where it was. I don't know if it was on the cliffs but they started scrambling up. There was a rock slide and they were climbing up the rock slide, I guess towards the harpy, but I don't know. We've got to rescue them. They're in grave peril.
Does this guy have any weapons on him?
Yes, he does. He has a long sword and a light crossbow on his back. He's wearing leather armor.
Does he seem rational and sane, or does he seem like he's a little too upset or rattled?
Go ahead and make another insight check if you would.
Oh, I'm not doing so good.
Okay.
He seems fine.
Yeah, he seems fine to me too. I just rolled a 9.
Yeah, an 8 for Gabrielle and a 9 for Marduk indicate that he seems to have his wits about him. He seems worried about his compatriots.
Okay.
He seems to be
Gabrielle and
honest.
Marduk share a look and a nod and say, yeah, you can come with us. Or are we sending him away, actually?
No, we may need another bowman if we're dealing with aerial targets. I also suggest that maybe, I don't know if it'll be a benefit, but put the hoods of our cloaks up and put our helmets on over the hoods. Maybe that'll muffle our ears a little bit, or at least kind of interfere with the hearing. Maybe that'll give us some protection against that.
Right. I would say that those who have chainmail probably have a helm of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
They can quickly grab and place on their heads. Those of you who don't, you might have a cloak that you could draw up over your head, but it won't afford you the same protection as the chainmail helm.
I'm not saying it'll work, but I'm just taking any precautions that we might have available unless we want to start. I don't remember earmuffs in my bedroll.
Exactly. He's like, we need to go. We need to hurry. And he starts walking that direction, turning around to see, are you following me? Like, he's got that, are you following me? Are we going? We go now?
Lead the way. Gabrielle, go back to the wagon and follow behind. I will keep between the wagon and this guy, but I tell him to turn and show us and lead the way and get your crossbow ready.
I have my crossbow out and I'll accompany you, Marduk.
Me too. Cool.
Hey, Alder, is this guy on the level? Are we headed into a real fancy ambush? Because I think he's just fine, but I also know I'm not the best judge of character.
You were there for the conversation, Alder. I don't mind you making a roll.
Okay, you want me to make perception or investigation? Insight?
Insight. Yeah.
Okay. Yikes.
Ooh,
I rolled a 21.
my friend.
You wish that the bond that this man has with his fellow soldiers would be the same bond that you develop with the rest of the Fists of Amira. He seems to be a very concerned, very interested, very dedicated soldier, wanting to get back as quickly as possible to his comrades who are in grave peril.
Okay.
It all seems legit.
Okay.
Gabrielle.
Start packing up the wagon so we can speed off to catch up and gathering everyone else up.
Okay.
Harpies, hoods up.
Gabrielle, I have a question.
I have an answer usually.
I can make a sound, and it can last for over a minute. Is there one in specific that you think I can do that would block it? A large hum? A large screech that might help block their sound?
I don't know. Does anything from the really intense day of study?
Oh, you rolled 20. I thought you might have some knowledge.
Any sound that's loud is going to help drown out. The fact that the wind is blowing from west to east may be of an advantage.
I was curious if there was a particular high-pitched hum that I could do that would give us an advantage for our saving roll. That's kind of what I'm looking for here.
There's like Gabrielle doesn't have do this, this sound. There's no sound that counters their song. It would just be straight noise, that could try to drown it out. So you might want to go with like white noise or something along those lines to try to drown it out.
There's no great magical solution to this problem, but perhaps the cry of iron swords, mounted eagles can fill the sky and fill us with hope. That's all I got.
I can certainly do it, and it'll last at least... Go ahead. Sorry.
Plug your ears, though. That'll work much better.
I have done what Marduk has suggested, but I think some loud noise that I can do for almost a minute would be helpful, so I'll try something.
And you're still a ways away, so you might want to hold that until you get really close to the bend, possibly. Are you doing it now?
No, I'm going to wait until I hear them.
Right, that's what I thought.
The instant I hear them, I'm just casting a cantrip and it takes an action. But it lasts up to a minute.
Anybody need invisibility going into this off the bat, besides me?
I don't know yet what the situation is, so that's
right.
It's good to have that ace in the hole. Wait till we engage and then maybe take an opportunity to make use of that.
Is anyone in particular resistant to charm?
What is the save against it?
Wisdom?
I think Gabrielle's 20 is enough of a roll to say that it's a wisdom-based save. We can metagame it out and say that that's what you're going to have to make a saving throw on if you are accosted by a Song of a Harpy.
I'm not terrible.
I'm not especially good. Hopefully we can shoot him down before we get in range.
Yeah. Oh, I got a spell that I can hit something 120 feet away, I think. So I might use that if I see something 120 feet away.
I've got a bow. It only goes 80.
The crossbows have long ranges 320.
And then you're rolling disadvantage.
Right. So our normal range is 80. That's our engagement range, but if we need to maybe take some pot shots at longer range, that might be an option.
This is it.
For expediency and keeping everyone together, we'll say that everyone arrives at about the same time. Gabrielle is able to get the horses to trot to higher speed or canter or whatever the proper terminology is. I have no idea. You go around a wide bend that was about 100 feet away or so, and you see what looks to be a rock slide that has taken place on both sides of the narrow pass. There's a point where the road is not completely blocked, but mostly blocked, where you'd have to kind of go around the rocks and then back around the rocks again, make kind of a S-shaped curve to get through the rocks that have fallen. On either side of the rocks that have spilled down into the pathway, about 80 foot high on either side, is a small ledge, maybe 30, 40 feet in width, before, once again, the rock walls start to climb very sheer. You can also see what looks to be several of the Soul Guard up upon the northern rock slide, pulling rocks down, trying to open up what looks to be some sort of cave or entrance to something. You guys see those guys? They're probably about a good 100, 120 feet away from you as they're pulling rocks down. Because of the trees that are blocking in the foliage, you can't quite see who's commanding them. But besides the two Soul Guard that are up high, you also see some more of the Soul Guard standing in the pathway, getting ready to work their way up. There's at least 4 more Soul Guard, one of them dressed in what looks to be a captain's uniform. That particular individual is kind of in the middle of the Soul Guard that are 60 to 80 feet away, the first one, and then stretching out further from there. What you can hear on the wind, although just barely, because the wind is blowing from the west to the east, and you are in a narrow pass, so it's hard. The wind is substantial, but you hear what sounds like a grating woman's voice. My pretties, I'll have you in but a moment. Mama will rescue you. And you can't see where this voice is coming from. You could hear this up on the northern ledge, but you can't actually see because of the foliage that's kind of hanging over there and a couple trees that are in between. You can't see the creature that's making these words and these pronouncements. But you are able to get within maybe 100 feet of her, 120 maybe, of where the voice is coming from, without being seen as of yet. Go ahead, everyone, roll for initiative. But this really is a surprise round because you haven't been detected yet. So we're going to go ahead and play the surprise round in initiative order, and then we'll start with initiative next turn once you're discovered.
Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter at KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure.
Until somebody more worthy takes it from me.
I see.
How about that? Is that more polite since I'm talking about a fellow Amiran?
Yes, much.
Okay.
And we closed the door, Scott, by the way. We closed the door. We didn't leave it open throughout the entire night.
It's important.
Yes, but you never said you locked it.
You never described the walls.
Right. Come on, guys. What about the window?
Yeah, we blocked the chimney too.
I was going to call my character Arlo as a joke in the beginning, but
Aldo Arlo?
well, I did it last week. I said, 2 weeks ago.
It was a couple weeks back, yeah, but you did.
I said I play Arlo. I was like, Scott's like, no, you don't. I don't know if you can hear Arlo,
Yes.
but he's cranky. I'm muting.
You could hear. I thought it was a cat at first in the background. I wasn't sure what it was. Well, it is 9:03, so if anyone wants to take a bio break really quick, they certainly can do that. I'll go ahead and get the battle map ready to go.
Yeah, let me check on Arlo.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. He's being somewhat stubborn, but I'll get him eventually.
Are we missing somebody?
You're missing two somebodies.
Missing Martin Duke? No.
They're
Missing Mel.
Melody. Is Melody still gone? Or has she come back from the bio break?
I'm here. I just need to get my character in the right spot.
That's okay.